Today there was a major ruling in a long-running and controversial debate. The UK Supreme Court ruled that the legal definition of a woman is based on biological sex. The judges said the concept of sex is binary. It follows a row between the Scottish Government and the campaign group For Women Scotland around the interpretation of the UK Equality Act. The Scottish Government had argued the definition should include trans women with a gender recognition certificate. But For Women Scotland argued it should only apply to people born female. In a moment, we'll hear from people on both sides of the debate. But first, here's our political correspondent, Phil Sim, to tell us what happened today.
The Supreme Court has issued a landmark judgment about how a woman should be defined in law. It's the culmination of a long-running legal dispute between the campaign group For Women Scotland and the Scottish Government. And it's all about how the Equality Act, which provides anti-discrimination protections across Scotland, England and Wales, should work. The question is how a woman is defined in that law. For Women Scotland said it should be on the basis of biology, which is set in the womb before you're even born. The Scottish Government had contended that you can change sex through the gender recognition process and that would entitle you to the protections of that acquired sex. This matters because of the way that the Equality Act provides protections for single-sex services and spaces. This ruling means that those spaces can continue to exclude trans people even if they have a gender recognition certificate. But the judges are also clear that there are still protections for trans people in the law. They're protected against discrimination and harassment under the Equality Act. So the case has now moved out of the legal arena and back into the political one because there are still questions for both the UK and Scottish governments about their wider policies, but they have both said that they accept the ruling of the court.
Well, there's been lots of reaction to that story. Marion Calder is the director of For Women Scotland.
I'm overjoyed, ecstatic, and it's been fabulous to actually hear. I could hear that and feel the energy of the women behind me. We genuinely had no idea which direction this was going to go. We should never have been in this place. Biology is a reality. It does not matter. It should be. We should have been able to actually say we have the right to our own services and facilities.
The judges were clear today that there are still protections for trans people against discrimination and harassment in the Equality Act, but trans groups say it undermines the way the gender recognition process has worked.
I'm pretty gutted by this ruling. I think it undoes a really important principle that was put in place 20 years ago that determined that if you obtain a gender recognition certificate, then you are, for almost all purposes in law, considered to be your acquired gender.
Our political correspondent Lindsay Bewes is in Holyrood tonight. Lindsay, what impact could today's ruling have?
Well, Louise, this ruling provides final legal clarity on exactly who is entitled to sex-based protections in equalities law. Now, it is set against the backdrop of what has been years of controversial debate here at Holyrood and beyond on gender identity issues more broadly. Now, those have included the government's proposals for a system of self-ID on gender recognition, the controversy surrounding the transgender prisoner Isla Bryson, initially housed in a women's prison, and more recently an employment tribunal involving an NHS Fife nurse who objected to sharing a changing room with a transgender doctor. Now, the ruling doesn't provide all of the answers when it comes to balancing the rights of women and the rights of trans people in day-to-day life. It doesn't settle that NHS Fife dispute. It doesn't impose a blanket ban on trans women accessing women's spaces. There are still judgments to be made by those who provide single-sex services, and many businesses and organisations will be digesting this judgment and weighing up what it will mean in practice. When ministers come back here to Holyrood after Easter recess, there will be questions, I think, for them on providing greater clarity on how the law should operate in practice. I think they will also face questions on their decision to fight this case. The government will also, I think, hope now they can draw somewhat of a line under all of this. They will want to try to extract themselves from what has been a politically damaging and highly controversial issue, but with two groups wanting to protect their rights and ensure that their rights are enforced, I think that could be easier said than done.
OK, Lindsay Bewes.